Welcome to another episode of the Retirepreneur Podcast. I'm your host with this week's executive summary for busy entrepreneurs building their second act business. Today's episode is designed for maximum impact in minimum time. So this week we're launching into a deep dive, really focusing on the philosophy behind Retirepreneur. We're looking at lessons from the founder, Curt Roese, who, interestingly, just finished a master's in entrepreneurship at age 63.
Yeah, and the really fascinating part, the twist here, is what he took away from it. He found the academic world didn't actually teach him how to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
It more gave him the formal, the language, for all the practical stuff he'd already learned over like 40 years in business.
That's quite a realization.
It is. And what really jumps out from his experience is this core idea, this thesis. It basically reframes how you should think about age and your whole professional background.
How so?
Well, everything you might think is a negative for starting a business later in life, maybe being more cautious, a bit skeptical, even past failures you've had.
Things people worry about.
Exactly. Those things are being presented not as liabilities, but actually as your unfair advantage when you're launching that second act business, maybe after 60.
Okay, let's unpack that idea because it really does flip the usual script, the whole Silicon Valley young founder narrative completely. We've pulled out three main actionable insights from his journey that show why that age and wisdom are such valuable assets.
Makes sense.
Let's start with the first one. Your frustration is market research.
This one really resonates, I think. The founder talked about this feeling right after retiring at 61. On one hand, huge relief from the corporate world.
Sure, totally understandable.
But almost immediately there was this restlessness, like a need for something new, some structure.
And I bet when he looked for guidance, he ran into a familiar problem for our listeners.
That's exactly it. He hit that wall, realized pretty much all the standard entrepreneurship advice, the guides on VC funding, aggressive growth models. It's all geared towards like a 28-year-old. Someone maybe lung cheap with little to lose.
Right, not someone with decades of experience and maybe a nest egg to protect.
Precisely. It ignores the huge number of people, like the 11,200 Americans turning 65 every day, who need a different approach. Something focused more on lower risk, sustainable income, that kind of thing.
So that disconnect he felt.
Yeah, that personal frustration, that feeling like the existing resources weren't really for him. That wasn't just a personal issue or some niche complaint. That was the business opportunity.
Interesting.
It was the gap in the market, plain as day, needing a solution.
Okay, but how do you know if your specific frustration isn't just, well, yours? Like, if I'm annoyed about planning golf around grandkids, is that a business or just my problem?
That's a fair question, and I think the answer comes down to pattern recognition, which is something experienced professionals are usually pretty good at.
Okay.
After decades in a professional setting, you develop an instinct for whether something is just a personal quirk or if it points to a bigger systemic issue, maybe related to technology shifts, generational needs, service gaps, that kind of thing. So you can differentiate.
Right. If your frustration feels rooted in a professional need or a lifestyle change common to people your age, chances are thousands of others are dealing with the exact same thing.
And the source material mentions he's literally building Retirepreneur by tackling his own frustrations right now, turning them into articles, features.
He's his own focus group, essentially. A living market test.
So the actionable takeaway here is don't dismiss that nagging feeling.
Exactly. Document it. What's the pain point? Who else likely feels it? That's your starting point for market research. Simple, cheap, and probably very accurate.
Okay, that naturally leads into the second big lesson, which pushes back hard against that typical startup advice. Testing smart beats moving fast.
Yeah, we all hear fail fast, break things. But honestly, for a retirepreneur, that can be really reckless advice.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. If you're just starting out, maybe 25, the cost of failure is relatively low. You have tons of time to recover. But if you're 60, 65.
Time feels different, and the money might be your retirement fund. Precisely. Time is the one asset you absolutely can't get back, and the capital you're risking. That's likely the result of decades of work. So you can't afford big, fast failures.
So it's not about avoiding risk altogether. You can't do that in business.
No, definitely not. It's about managing it smartly, strategically. Academics might call it hypothesis testing or strategic risk management.
But what does that look like practically for someone starting maybe a smaller second act business, not a huge corporate venture?
It looks like bringing that CFO mindset, maybe honed over years in another career, to your own small startup, even if it's run from the kitchen table.
Okay.
Your experience makes you instinctively ask those key questions. What's the downside? What could I realistically lose here? And how long would it take to recover if this doesn't work? You prioritize getting validation over just sheer speed.
Can you give a specific example of that kind of validated approach from the founder's story?
Sure. Look at how Retirepreneur itself got started. Before putting in significant personal cash, he went out and entered pitch competitions.
Using external validation.
Exactly. He tested the core concept and actually won $7,500 in grant money. That's testing with other people's money first. Smart.
Very smart.
Then he kicked things off with a free newsletter. No big office lease, no immediate payroll, no massive upfront investment. Just testing the waters, gauging actual interest.
That makes so much sense. Start small, maybe free, use grants, gather that crucial feedback and prove there's demand before you're heavily invested. It helps you pivot if needed without a huge loss.
Right. It avoids that nightmare scenario of, say, buying tons of inventory or signing a long lease for something nobody actually wants.
That methodical, validated way of doing things. That's the experienced professional, the inner CFO, talking.
It is. That caution isn't just fear. It's learned pattern recognition. It's knowing where the potential pitfalls are. That's why testing smart really is much better than moving fast when security and sustainability are part of your success definition.
Okay, now the third insight. This one touches on something that can be tricky for experienced people starting over. Vulnerability. Insight 3 is, honesty builds more trust than expertise.
Yeah, this is a big one. It can feel really uncomfortable, even awkward, to be a beginner again when you've spent decades being competent, respected, maybe even the expert in your field.
Definitely.
The founder actually mentioned in his notes, struggling with things like public speaking again, or even, and this is kind of funny, being put on academic probation at 61.
Wait, academic probation? How?
Apparently, the university calculated his initial GPA using some terrible grade from an undergrad class he took like 40 years ago.
Oh, wow. That must have stung.
A bit humbling, I imagine. But the point the source material makes is crucial. Showing that vulnerability, being willing to admit you don't have it all figured out yet, that's actually what builds real connection.
So it's not about pretending.
No. Think about self-efficacy. It's a bit of an academic term, but it basically means trusting you can figure things out. Confidence in your second act isn't about showing up day one, acting like the all-knowing guru.
What is it then?
It's about trusting that your 40 years of navigating challenges and solving problems have equipped you with the ability to learn and find the answers as you go. That's the real confidence.
That's a really important distinction. It's trust in your process and resilience earned over time rather than claiming immediate expertise.
Exactly. And that leads to what the material calls the authenticity dividend. Let's face it, people, especially experienced professionals, are tired of slick corporate talk and overly polished presentations.
They can see through it.
They can. So when the founder describes his role not as some sage on a mountaintop, but more like the guy a few steps ahead on the trail turning back to say, hey, watch out for that root I just tripped over.
Right.
That creates instant credibility. It's relatable. It's honest.
So being open about the learning process, sharing the struggles maybe with the technology or the marketing side, that actually builds a deeper connection than pretending you aced it from the start.
Absolutely. Your credibility comes from that honesty, that vulnerability, not from trying to project some kind of bulletproof expertise you might not actually have yet in this new venture.
Showing the journey, bumps and all.
Precisely. It signals you're real, you're navigating it just like they might be, and that builds trust way faster than any fancy marketing ever could.
Okay, so we have these three powerful reframes. Frustration is research, test smart not fast, and honesty trumps expertise. What are the immediate practical steps someone listening right now can take?
All right, let's nail down some actions. Starting with that first insight, the frustration piece. Here's your homework, really simple. Spend just 15 minutes, maybe later today. Identify one frustration you've personally experienced recently related to this stage of life or career.
Okay, just one.
Just one to start. Then write down 3 things about it. 1, who else do you think experiences this same frustration? Get specific. 2, what would a really simple, clear solution look like? Don't overthink it. And 3, thinking about insight 2, what's the absolute smallest, lowest risk test you could possibly run for this idea? Like what?
Could be anything small. A quick poll on LinkedIn, a conversation with a former colleague, maybe setting up a simple free landing page to see if anyone signs up for info.
Right.
Just the tiny step to get validation.
Great. And since the second insight hammered home that need for a strategic, validated approach, that CFO mindset you mentioned, a tool that could help implement that.
Right. For the planning side, especially if you want that structured, risk-aware approach without needing a full-blown MBA, we often recommend looking at LifePlan.
LifePlan. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of business planning software out there is really built for startups chasing huge VC investments. LifePlan has a great lean plan option. It's perfect for the kinds of lifestyle businesses many retirepreneurs are building. Lets you map out a solid one-page plan pretty quickly.
And the key part for that CFO mindset.
It's the financial forecasting tools. They're built in and relatively easy to use. You can model different scenarios, estimate your cash flow, figure out your burn rate, basically understand the financial side of your strategic choices before you commit serious capital. So it helps you put those risk management instincts into a concrete plan.
Exactly. It helps you define and manage the risk proactively.
Okay, and one more resource. For those maybe not ready to jump fully into their own venture yet, or who want to bridge the gap with some flexible work.
Right. For finding quality remote or flexible work, especially work that values experience, we often point people towards flex jobs.
Why flex jobs specifically?
The big advantage is they hand screen every single listing. That saves you an enormous amount of time. You're not wading through scams or jobs that aren't really remote or flexible.
Time is key for this audience.
Absolutely. And the data backs it up for experienced professionals. Something like over 70% of the jobs posted on Flex Jobs are aimed at people with experience roles like accountants, project managers, virtual assistants, consultants.
So it targets the right demographic.
It does. It is a paid service. There's a subscription fee. But frankly, the time saved and the quality of the listings usually make that small cost worthwhile for finding that flexible income stream while you maybe build your main venture.
Good practical resources there.
Yeah, hopefully useful. And just to wrap up the core idea here, really let this sink in. That caution you might feel, that's hard-earned wisdom. Your skepticism, that's sophisticated pattern recognition from years of experience, even past failures. That's just tuition paid for valuable lessons.
It's all experience.
It's all experience. The truly important lessons for this next stage weren't learned in a classroom recently. They were earned over decades. Your entire career has, in many ways, prepared you perfectly for whatever you choose to build next. That's your executive briefing for this week. If you found value in these insights, share this episode with fellow retirepreneurs and subscribe to the Retirepreneur newsletter at retirepreneur.com. Follow us for weekly strategic insights, and remember, your most successful chapter is just beginning. Until next week, keep building.